So I've got to find the right person. We've got to do all these screenings. We got to get contracts. How long does the surrogacy process take? Well, you may be surprised. Stick around and find out. What's up? My name is Corlendos Scott, and I am a surrogacy attorney based in LA, and my entire practice revolves around helping people grow their family through assisted reproductive technologies. It's a fancy way of saying things like surrogacy, egg donation, sperm donation, growing your family with the assistance of technology and somebody else. So in this episode, we're going to cover the stages of the surrogacy process, what affects a surrogacy timeline, and how long does the process take? Let's dive right in. I get it. Nothing can be more challenging than the waiting game, right? Have you ever noticed that when you're waiting or anticipating something to happen, time slows down? Yeah, I get it. I remember being like a kid and waiting for Saturday, and it never came. And then when it came, it was over too quick. Einstein even had this theory, right, of special relativity. And he said that time slows down or speeds up depending on how fast you move relative to something else. Pretty clever guy. So when you apply that concept to surrogacy, we all get sucked into the process and time slows down. A surrogacy journey has several stages depending on which stage you're in when you start the journey. Now, the initial phase can range anywhere from 4 to 6 months. Yeah, I said initial phase. And I use the word phase because breaking down the whole surrogacy process into 3 phases helps kind of trick the mind when you become challenged due to the possibility of the long wait. So let's talk about those phases. And even before we can look at those phases, we have to recognize that there are some things that can happen during a surrogacy journey that can change the timeline. I know, frustrating, right? So for instance, medical results. Now, when you're initially starting the process, really before you even get to the main part of the process, everybody's going to be physically screened. So if anything comes up in that screening process that is negative, then it may set us back because it may mean that we need to look at another candidate. It may mean that we need to address something in ourselves before we can move forward. But the medical screening process is one of those things that can add extra time to the process. But it's all for good reason, because you want to make sure that you're healthy or the healthiest you can be when you're starting the process. Another thing that can slow down or speed up or interrupt the process is the matching. Yeah, you have to actually match with someone, right? You have to find that surrogate that's going to be right for you. Well, it's possible that while you're searching for a surrogate, someone else may actually connect with that surrogate and match with them. And while you're still looking around, you go back to the first person you saw and she's no longer available. So there's the possibility of cancellations and things like that. There's the possibility that you match with someone who doesn't quite fit the characteristics or the qualifications. So she passed the initial phase of you saying that she was the right person, but when she went in to get checked, she just didn't pass the test, and so you weren't able to finish that matching process. You may find the perfect surrogate for you, but she may not have medical insurance that covers a surrogacy pregnancy. And that may leave you saying, I just can't afford it because now I have to purchase an additional policy for her, and that prices me out of the process. So that's also another consideration. These are all things, again, that can affect that timeline. Another thing that can affect the timeline is actually agreeing on the terms of the surrogacy contract that you must have between you and your surrogate. You know, it's really a negotiation. It's an arm's length deal. So you want to make sure that you and your surrogate agree on all the ins and outs, the responsibilities and the rights that are in that contract. And if there comes a part of the process of the contract phase where you two just do not agree and you can't find any common ground, well, that may cause the match to dissolve and you may be back to square one finding a new surrogate. Now, I don't tell you all this to bring you down. I just want you to know ahead of time what roadblocks or what speed bumps could be in your way so that you can surround yourself with people who can help you overcome those. If you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to give you a free gift that will help you get started along that path of making the right choices and hopefully avoiding some of these speed blocks and road bumps and things that can slow you down. So let's jump into the phases and let's put some numbers behind this. So let's talk about phase one. Now, before we talk about phase one, I want you to do something. If you like the video, if you're getting anything out of it, go ahead and click that like button. That lets YouTube know that, this is something that other people may want to hear. So it'll share the video with other people. Go ahead, click the like button, subscribe, and while you're at it, just hit the bell. That'll let you know when I put new videos out. You won't miss a thing. You don't want to miss things. Things aren't to be missed. So let's talk about that phase one, this pre-screening phase where you're getting ready to match. Now, generally, the pre-screening takes about 2 to 4 months for the surrogate and another month for the intended parents if you're considering that you're creating your own embryos. Of course, the surrogate during this time is being psychologically examined. She's going to be medically examined, physically, that is, and she's going to be being determined whether she's fit or not to be your surrogate. So give yourself anywhere from 2 to 4 months. Now, that's 2 to 4 months after you've found the surrogate. So if we're backing up to, pre-phase one, just finding that surrogate could take appreciable amount of time. I won't say forever. There are some agencies that have surrogates ready to go, and you can go in and be matched in the first week or so. And then there are some agencies that may take about 3 to 6 months. And here's the kicker. Maybe the agency that had someone ready to go within the first week turns into the agency that's going to take 3 to 6 months, just depending on the traffic, the amount of people they're working with at any given time. So if you're thinking about the process and you want to go ahead and get to phase one, this pre-screening, go ahead and get started as early as possible, just vetting potential surrogates, finding the surrogacy agency or the matching program that you think is right for you. So let's talk about phase two. Now, this is the phase in the process where you'll probably want to pick up the phone and call me to hire me to draft you a legal contract between yourself and your surrogate. This is what I call the legal or contract negotiation phase. And it can take, honestly, between a couple of weeks to a month, maybe even more than 1 month, depending on how long it takes for the parties to agree to the terms of the contract. Now, typically when I start drafting a contract as the surrogacy attorney, I already have the basic terms of the arrangement that the agency has given me. This comes across in what they call a benefits package. So I'm not guessing out of the blue what her compensation will be, whether she will receive lost wages if she has to be taken off of work due to bed rest or limited activity. I already know whether she's going to get compensation for things like massages or for maybe maternity clothing even. I already have these basic items. So we're talking about really the long form of the contract that we're drafting, and we're depending on you guys to work together to really come to an agreement on what those terms should be. Now, as much as I hate to add these kinds of caveats, I've seen phase two be slowed to a screeching halt based on people not being able to come to an agreement, but also based on things that people never saw coming, like an unexpected divorce during the process. I was working with a surrogate who was an amazing surrogate, but unfortunately during the contract phase, she happened to be going through a divorce. And it started really once we got to that phase. No one saw it coming, even herself. And because of that, it really changed the dynamics of her living situation, her home environment. And so really the parents had to go back to the table to consider, do we still want to work with the surrogate? Not because we don't believe she's amazing, but because is this too much for her during this time in her life? And frankly, do we want our child to be gestated in this type of environment? Not that there's a right or wrong answer, but you definitely have to take your time to consider the ins and outs, the pros and cons of that. So just keep in mind that it's not as simple as saying, how long does it take to get through legal? Well, that depends what happens during that phase. Let's talk about phase three. All right, phase three is what I call the fun time. Now we're talking about getting and being pregnant. So the preparation for embryo transfer can be anywhere from a couple of weeks to even maybe 3 to 6 months if we're talking about the transfer actually being successful. Now, here's why. The first embryo transfer attempt may not stick, as we say. It may not take, and she may not become pregnant with the first transfer. But here's a pro tip. Make sure you have something in your contract where the surrogate understands and she's willing and she intends that if the first transfer doesn't take or it doesn't stick or it doesn't work, so to speak, she's willing to do, let's say, at least 3 tries before we give up and you have to go find a new surrogate. That'll hopefully give you a shot at being successful at obtaining a pregnancy. Now the embryo transfer was successful, you're pregnant, and now what do? Well, it's kind of like, just turning on that timer and waiting. Now we know that we're looking at the next 10-month period to make sure that the gestation period is complete. Well, actually, once you have the successful pregnancy results or you hear that fetal heartbeat, you're typically already, 5 to 7 weeks pregnant already. So, you're a little beneath that 9-month period for you to be expecting to make it to delivery. But that's just where you are. You've had a successful embryo transfer. Now it's a matter of waiting those months for that delivery to roll around. Also, during this phase 3 period of the pregnancy, we're looking for a key benchmark. That key benchmark is the 12th to 14th week, the entry into that second trimester. When we enter into that second trimester, in most places, especially in California, that's when we start beginning the second part of the legal process. Remember, part 1 was you got a contract between you and the surrogate. Now, part 2 is we go to court, we show the judge that contract along with a number of other documents that prove what we did, and that judge turns around, looks at all the facts, and then declares that you are the rightful sole legal parent of the child that someone else is going to deliver. Now, once we have that in our hand, we're really just waiting on that delivery day because we're going to deliver that to the hospital and they'll see proof that you have the right to leave that hospital with the baby you didn't deliver, and you won't get arrested for kidnapping. So when all is said and done, I've seen surrogacy processes take anywhere from 12 to 15 months when you consider all of the prep leading up to finding the surrogate, to getting her screened, to getting you screened, to getting pregnant, and then having a 9-month pregnancy. And I've seen it take all the way up to 2 years, where there's some failed embryo transfer attempts, or God forbid, there is a miscarriage midway through the first pregnancy and we start all over. But all in all, it can vary. But just be prepared to know what to expect during each phase, and then you'll be well on your way to at least being able to shrink that timeline in your mind and in your emotions. If you're looking for information on how to do the surrogacy process without losing sleep, time, or money, then you want to get access to my Surrogacy Secrets training. You can get it by just clicking the link below. It's free. I did it just for you. Yeah, just so you'll know how to do the process. I like you like that. Yeah, if you want it, just click the link below and I'll get it to your inbox. And see you in the next video.